Okay, this is the second time that I'm doing this again. I'm muting, having my mic muted. Mark, I know Mark joined us. If you can enable your webcam, it would be great. In the meantime, I want to be thanking everyone for joining to another episode of the Teaching Tidbits live series. It's been a very interesting experiment that we've been having all of these days, and we've been having a number of guests that have been sharing with us their experiences in this transition period that we have all been experiencing and then uh, adapting very quickly. And with me, I have today two esteemed colleagues who I have been working with throughout different projects, and we've been all in this position of doing online learning, pushing innovation in our respective campuses. And then I want to first of all invite um, Olena Zhadko, who is the director of online learning at Lehman College. And I want to first, tell us a little bit about yourself and how are you doing today?
Thanks, Carlos. I appreciate the invitation, and it's a pleasure being here and sharing how we're all dealing with this unprecedented times on our campuses and as well as in our lives. So I'm Olena Zhadko. I'm the director of the Office of Online Education at Lehman College, City University of New York. And we've been doing online education for quite a long time. We have 5 online programs. We offer about 500 online courses every year. So prior to these times, we have had quite a lot of things that we have done in this space. But this is certainly changing the landscape for us at our institution, as well as we are assisting and helping faculty and students to transition to what I call remote teaching, as we have to quickly adapt to this new environment and figure out the most feasible ways on how we could serve our students and still deliver quality education during these uncertain times and possibly limited access. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to share how we are dealing with this and be a part of this conversation.
Thank you very much, Olena, for joining us. And I have Mark also that was able to join us. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Unfortunately, I don't have a camera that's operable right now.
Okay, so we're going to be hearing Mark's audio. That's okay. It's part of the technology. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Mark is the director of the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology from Bronx Community College. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we have a good center there that we do a lot of faculty development, and one of our main seminars is online course development. It's a year-long seminar, and we've been steadily growing the number of faculty that are teaching online with a huge recent growth spurt. But not all those faculty is certified. So we're looking, just like Olena, ways to get our faculty up to speed and ready to go.
Excellent. And as you have been sharing, right, we share this common responsibility of preparing our faculty to teach online, and especially in this sudden move that we had to go through. And we've been doing this, yes, but not with the level of changes and complexities that have been added to our daily duties. So the first question that I wanted to ask you is about your work responsibilities and how that has changed in this transition. Let's start with Olena, and then we'll go with Mark.
That's such a great question. So, it's really interesting to think about that. So, I think in terms of the work responsibilities, I would say that they're pretty much the same, except they are much more scaled, meaning that while we had same resources as before, we are now serving, quadrupled number of faculty and students as we prepare them for this remote online teaching. In terms of the scope of work, I think it is the same. We do have to adjust quite a bit, though, in a way of how we handle preparation for faculty in terms of their readiness to teach online. And so in that sense, it is a bit different because we do have to consider the fact that our faculty do not have the luxury of time to prepare and develop their online courses, as well as our students might have certain limitations in terms of access to technology, as well as access to appropriate devices. Right. So in that sense, we are really have to adjust our training and even what we advise in these difficult times. For example, we strongly recommend not using synchronous video conferencing as the only way to continue teaching online, mainly because we have to consider our students. There are some other projects that we had to quickly develop. So I'll just briefly mention something we've done was we put together, we proposed actually to the college a faculty mentoring program. And the mentoring program essentially enabled us to partner with some of our, what I call star faculty who've done an outstanding job teaching online in recent years to become advocates as well as provide additional support to their colleagues within their schools. So we're certainly coming up with a number of initiatives that are a bit different, but still within the same scope. So another thing that we've done is we've sent out a survey to our faculty asking them about their experiences, about their needs for support, and we constantly review that input, and we are developing additional training and instructional guides in order to respond to faculty needs. So I'm going to stop there and pass it on to Mark.
Mark?
Yes. So I used to consider myself more or less the evangelist of online teaching, if not teaching with technology. And it always seemed that we were just preaching to the choir, the early comers to technology, those that jump in first, and all that. And it was really hard to kind of grow things. But now it seems that the congregation is rushing towards the church, and we're getting overwhelmed a little bit ourselves. It's good. I think we're taking a step in the right direction, but it can be challenging to do it all at once. And so much like Olena said, we've also put out some surveys to find out what platforms people are using, because they're not always using Blackboard, to find out where we can help them the most. And then we've created support networks. We've taken the mentors that we have that do our normal online course development seminar, and we've branched them out to work with faculty in each of the departments or disciplines. And those are going to be the department liaisons. So we're spreading out a network of assistance and help. And we find that when we have a liaison that's in the department, it's a stronger fit because they already know the subject matter, and they know what features of technology work in that area and what don't. And we just get a quicker onboarding for those people that haven't used some of the LMSs, learning management systems, in the past. And not only that, there's also some content that they can share between each other, because there's overlap from, Math 101 to Math 102 or something like that. They can share some of the activities. So it's been a rush, but I think everybody's gotten an introduction to the LMS of their choice now, and I think now it's time to try to start teaching the pedagogy part. So we've done a big pivot. Everybody's gotten the quick onboarding for the nuts and bolts of the medium that they're going to use, and now it's time to start applying the best pedagogy for the next coming semesters.
Great. And with that, as you mentioned, everybody, the congregation is coming to the church, and the church is small, right? And there's so many challenges that you're facing in this position. I wanted for us to have a conversation in identifying what, for us as administrators, what type of challenges are we seeing, and how are we thinking or planning on or potential solutions that you are seeing that could be implemented to address those challenges. Let's go with Olena.
Sure, this is yet another great question. So I think being in a leadership role and being an administrator during this constant times, you have to unfortunately be available 24/7, right? Which is rather challenging, because you have to also think about, is that a realistic expectation? So for me as an administrator, I really had to think strategically about how I am going to protect and prepare my team to not be on call 24/7 and to not burn out, right? So that was quite a bit of thinking in terms of intentional scheduling, how we are going to communicate with each other, setting expectations, developing resources that could be helpful, and being proactive with our supports that we're putting forward, so that we are being so we offer something before the influx really comes to our office. So just thinking strategically about how we're going to work with large number of faculty, that was something that I had to think about as an administrator. The other thing that I found to be a challenge is there's quite a lot of paperwork that needs to be filled out related to expenses, to every project that's related to COVID-19. So that was yet another challenge. We also had to hire additional staff, as temporary staff to help us out. So again, it comes back to the processes that oftentimes, and as an administrator, you have the luxury of time to really work out those details, and there's typically no pressure to get it done in 24 hours. So I think, it's been challenging in that sense that the deadlines and the pressure, comes in very quickly, and how do you manage that, right? So as you get the emails, phone calls, text messages, and messages through some other systems, being really thoughtful about how you respond to those inquiries, and how quickly can you deliver, and figuring out your priorities in order to be responsive and supportive.
Great. Mark?
Yeah, so our first, I guess, challenge was trying to figure out what our resources were. And part of that was, people. A big part of it was the time. And we've seen a number of tasks thrown upon us in addition to what we would normally try to do for our online course development training. The time was much smaller, obviously. The amount of people that were participating was huge, but they just didn't have much time to do it. And then the other one that's always tough for an administrator is the motivator. What is the funding? What is the compensation that you have available to faculty? And in the past, we've had a set amount, and it was only to to really handle about maybe 50 or 60 faculty in a given year. And now that same amount of money is, we're trying to do 200, 250 people now. So resources have been really the biggest challenge to us. There appear to be some avenues that we can take with this COVID-19. Some of them are under the CARES Act, and the campus administration and CUNY itself is helping out with some of that. But there are also some other unknowns that we haven't encountered yet that, you know, they keep popping up. We keep getting surprised here and there.
And you know, it's still yet some more to come. Right? We don't know yet what's going to be happening in the fall, and we've been trying to get as much as we can in terms of getting our faculty ready, and also, you know, sending also a strong message to our students that faculty are preparing. Faculty are getting certified to be able to teach online, and then making sure that then they are able to provide greater support for our students as well. But then you also have, as you mentioned, you have your teams. You had to identify personnel, identify what you needed in order for you to be able to provide the additional support that is coming your way. And then one key component in this whole transition, it's been communication. So the question goes for you, in any tips, advice on how you have been keeping fluid communication with your teams. Let's go with Olena.
Sure. So, so in my team, we have been using Slack as a way to communicate for years now. So since I've started in this position almost 3 years ago, we have been using Slack, where all of our team members are a part of it, and we typically use various channels to work on different projects. So that's kind of a way for us to quickly touch base and get feedback on specific things that need to be moving. But we also use, well, we've been using video conferencing also for the same amount of time, where, you know, we have 2 meetings typically in the week. So one is on Monday mornings, where we check in with with each other. Here's what I have on my plate for the week. Here's what's coming up. Those meetings are typically just between 30 and 45 minutes. We try to keep them short, but that allows each and everyone to kind of share what's on their plate. And then we have another kind of wrap-up meeting, typically either on Thursday afternoon or Friday, where we kind of check in with each other and say, okay, well, you know, this has been done, you know, here are my updates, you know. So I don't think for us anything has really changed. And it certainly was very helpful to have this process in place before this COVID-19 happened, mainly because we continued kind of business as usual in terms of those channels. So we didn't have to really set up anything new.
Mark?
So for us, I can't say too much has changed. We're just using more technology to do it. Long before any of this happened, if you came to work in my office, you got a little wallet-sized card with everybody's name on it, and some other redundant forms of communication, not only campus email, but personal email and stuff like that. In case one system went down, you had another. And that's just been a long practice of mine. But since this has all happened, one of the things we're doing is we're recording our meetings. We meet with Zoom or WebEx, or maybe even Collaborate, and we're recording those meetings so that those that can't make it, or if you're so busy that you're not able to do something, you can go back and write down some notes. So everybody can go back and spend lots of time seeing meetings that they were left out of, which can really fill a day, especially when you're not in the office, because sometimes it feels like you've got nothing else to do but can go to online meetings. But that's probably the biggest change that we've had. We're recording our meetings, and we have standard places to go for those meetings.
At least you don't have to run from building to building for different meetings. Well, it's one benefit, and the other, the problem is that you don't do at least that type of exercise. So you have to think about what type of exercise that we have to do. And on those, along those lines, there's something important, and we were talking about the amount of work that came to you, and also that it seems that there is the understanding that you are available 24/7. But then, same way as we have conversations with faculty and with everybody, we are similar human beings, and then we have also challenges, and we have also other obligations, and then we need to make sure that then we keep a balance between work and life during this crisis. So, how are you keeping that balance?
Sure, that's a great question. So I'll just make a note for some of us who have who no longer have childcare. This is certainly a challenge, and depending on the age of your child, I think that that really varies in terms of the time and your time management skills and parental skills that come into place. So I think one thing that I would say, commenting on this topic, is it's while you might be expected to be on call 24/7 or to respond quickly, I think it's really important to disconnect, so at certain hour, and I think it's really individual, whether it becomes 9 p.m. or that becomes midnight. It really does depend on what works best for your schedule. But I think it's really important to disconnect and to recharge, right? So, and then I would also say that it's extremely important to focus on your family or your own personal well-being and be intentional about it. So I'm just gonna keep it at that and pass it on to Mark.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite questions. I think this is probably one of the hardest to do, because when somebody has, we're reactive in nature. A lot of our daily activities are responding to somebody that needs something, and we try to support them. So you want to have that minimized time for response and resolution to their problem. But at the same time, you got to have a balance. And what I found, when you're teaching online, at the very beginning, there's an increase in the amount of work you seem to be doing. It's just so slow going, and it takes a while to get it to really get in a groove. So now that I'm off campus, what a surprise it's been to try to do some of the work that I normally do. It seems to be like 25% more effort to get the same amount of work done. So you're trying to stick to your normal hours of your day, but you're getting less work done in the same amount of time. And the other part that's very challenging is your work environment and your home environment aren't changing. While I was at work, I used to just kind of work through my lunch. It didn't bother me. I'm in a workplace, it didn't bother me. But now I'm at home, and there's so many distractions, and some of them are comical. I would love to see Olena's child jump in the background of her scene there. That would be funny. But it's hard to separate those times. And for lunchtime here at home, it's almost hard to get back to work. There's so many distractions. So you really got to kind of remain disciplined and try to find those chances where you can save some time, do something that serves two purposes, if possible. Taking notes from one meeting and using them in another meeting, that makes sense, when it makes sense.
Discipline is a very important skill, and it's tough to balance it in these times. Sometimes even whenever I have to go from one virtual meeting to another virtual meeting, I still have in my mind saying, well, I gotta run to another meeting, because that's what I was doing in the face-to-face environment. But then it was not running. It was just I gotta click to the other meeting, and then that is it. So we have to, as you say, we have to be mindful on the time that we are spending and how we are balancing, so that we can uh, not get ourselves stressed out. And then that's a question, as the next question that I wanted to ask. Any tips or anything that you're doing that helps you with reducing this stress, anxiety? There's a lot of things going on. It's very, watching the news is very sad, in seeing how we're facing this crisis, and how do we address this, everything that is coming to us.
So I'd say, it's yet another great question, Carlos. So I think what worked for me, I'll share that prior to COVID-19, I used to be an avid runner, and under current circumstances, I had to explore other areas, and so I've been doing yoga. That's something that really helps. 15 minutes a day, right before bedtime. It's a perfect stress relief that has worked for me. The other piece is, as I mentioned earlier, to disconnect, right? And to disconnect from technology, and, finding those, 15 minutes a day, also to read a book, right? Or enjoy a dinner with your family, whether it's in person or whether you could call them on video and bring them to your home. So just really trying to be intentional about during kind of the non-work hours, to be offline, and to really kind of think about your own well-being, because I think the next day is going to come again. And if you're in a great mood and if you're rested, you're more likely to project that to many people that you encounter the following day. So I think if you kind of focus on that element for yourself, that's going to have a positive impact on others around you.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, I am also an avid runner, and I always found it hard to run before or after work. But now I've actually I block in my time at lunch, and I'll go for a run right at lunch, and it helps a lot. It gets my run in. I can't avoid it. But then a quick cool down, and I'm back at the office, and so to speak, and that works really well for me. So since this whole thing, I've lost some weight. I've managed to keep up with work, and that's all good. But there's this guilt that occurs sometimes when I see emails coming in from others that are working well past the 5 o'clock hour, the 6 o'clock hour, and especially, like I said, when we get calls from faculty that are needing assistance, your desire is to immediately help them and get their resolution to them. So that's probably the biggest thing. If I'm out for a run at lunch, I'm worried if is somebody trying to text me, or is somebody trying to email me, somebody needs something. That's probably the biggest thing. And if you can just schedule in sometimes those 15 minutes here and there for yourself, or maybe a run at lunch, that's a great way to do it. Not only that, with the web now, you schedule in something, probably somebody can see that you've blocked off that time. So when they can't get you, they recognize that you're in a meeting or doing something else.
I think that is very similar in setting expectations, because we've been pushing a lot to our faculty to make sure that then we set expectations, and we set realistic expectations, and that applies to administrators as well, in making sure that then we're able to keep that balance. I've heard a lot in these conversations that I've had. I've heard a lot about yoga and running. I do some exercise in the mornings. At least I know I have it as a habit. So that has been helping a lot to make sure that we keep some consistency. And I think also one of the things that would be important for us to identify is, what were the things that you were doing before, like commuting to work, that you're not doing now, and perhaps that time that you had to spend to get to work, identify it as a as a benefit, and see how you could use that time to to work more on you. And I want to thank everyone that has been watching this live stream, and we have someone that is asking us a question, and I'm gonna ask anybody that wants to answer this question. This comes from Tatiana. Says, how the person can say that working at home, or how can you explain to the children that now home is a place to work too?
This is such a great question. So, Mark, when I have my meeting next time, you'll definitely see my daughter sitting next to me. So she is going to be 2 in a couple of weeks. And so what I typically do before the meeting, I bring her a book, and I bring her some other toys that I could spread on the big desk. And I tell her that I'm going to start my meeting, and she's going to focus, and I'm going to focus, and that's what we're going to do. So I think it's challenging to do that, and I have to constantly repeat that. But I'll just tell you one thing that happened in one of the meetings. As I was speaking to a group of about 25 people, my daughter decided to climb on me, and she was just clapping and saying, "Bravo, mama, bravo." Right. So I think it is hard to set those boundaries with children, especially different ages. But I think figuring out a schedule that has been really helpful for me, and trying to dedicate some time where I do spend time with my child, and then we alternate, right? So having different types of activities throughout the day where, in the morning, there's an hour for this, 45 minutes for this, there's a different activity, and constantly reminding, your child that, this is our time. Let's look at the schedule. I mean, I'm trying to do this with my 2-year-old, trying to get her into that habit. It's been fun for us to do that. So I hope that works for your kids as well.
Mark, do you want to add?
I don't have any kids, but my wife would probably say I'm the kid of the house. What we've done, because she's doing the same thing. She's online and having competing meetings. And if we were in the same room, say it was a living room, that just wouldn't work, because we'd both be shouting over each other. It just wouldn't work. So I've carved out a little place down in the dungeon, in the cellar, so to speak, and created a little bit of a desk. And it's quiet down here. We don't bother each other. Every now and again, we'll poke our heads in the other person's office, so to speak, and just smile. And it helps us get through the day and get through easily. And it's nice to be able to see the other half here and there, and just have that smile. That helps out.
Great. And we've been getting great advice, great tips from your experiences. Any final advice that you would like to give to the college community, and that applies everybody, right? Our students, our colleagues, faculty, anything that you would like to provide on how to face this transition?
Yeah, I would just say, be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, be kind to people you work with, be kind to your family members. These are very unusual times, and it's very easy to lose it. So I think just be patient and be kind, and try to be understanding. I think we're all trying to do our best. It's okay to maybe not meet every single deadline, but as long as we are kind and empathetical and supportive, I think we could get through this. So that would be my final words.
Mark?
I'd echo that. I think we have to think that even though somebody might be an obstacle to what you're trying to do, if you look at it that they're trying to do their best in their situation, then we can all get through a little bit better. It's times like these that will either show the best in oneself or the worst in oneself. And if you start to approach everything, all the challenges you're facing, and you decide what you want to be. You want to be the best of yourself. Hopefully, you'll end up being that. You'll end up being the hero in the room. So that's what I would recommend. Just learn what you can learn. Do your best. Assume that others are doing their best, and move on.
Those are great pieces of advice from you, and I think I I enjoyed this a few minutes that we had the opportunity to have a conversation. This is also an opportunity for us to get connected. Getting also that sense of not being in within our houses, and then being able to have those conversations with our colleagues, family members. So try to find those spaces to do that as well. And we're going to be having another episode of Teaching Tidbits tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about some tips for homeschooling and how we handle all of these new challenges or new adventures, depending on how you see it. And then I want to thank Olena and Mark for agreeing to come to this episode. Many thanks for being there, and always having the collaborations that we've been having for these years. And until the next time we meet again for the Teaching Tidbits, many thanks.
Thank you, Carlos. Excellent.